morning and welcome to our VetJobs and Military Spouse Job Salute to Industry series. My name is Angie Fair and I'm an active duty Army spouse of 17 years and I oversee our Recruiter Connect community. And today our guest is Miss Christy Parsons. And Christy is a member and participant in our Recruiter Connect community. And we are so happy to have her today. Christy is an Air Force veteran and a military spouse. And she currently works for TTC Inc. as a senior technical recruiter. So Christy has, as being a veteran and a military spouse, she's currently located outside of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, but she's been stationed at a lot of different locations, including Joint Base Andrews, Royal Air Force Lakenheath, and Willow Grove Air Station in Pennsylvania. Additionally, Christy has served on 2 deployments supporting both OIF and NATO missions. So Christy, thanks for joining us today and spending a few minutes to talk about TTC Inc. and your role and some of the roles that you guys are hiring for.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So would you mind sharing just a little bit more about yourself and TTC Inc.?
Okay. Well, my husband is also, he just retired actually from 20 years of active duty Air Force.
Congratulations.
So this is a new chapter in our lives. One great thing is the fact that I do work remote and TTC Incorporated supports that. So that has been extremely helpful as a mil spouse and just in general, just to be able to, have that support. And it really is flexible. So wherever he goes, if we don't decide to stay in Ohio, I still have a job with TTC, which I really, really enjoy. So other than that, I have 2 dogs, a little daughter who's 7. You might see her pop in. That's just the work from home kind of thing that happens. Sometimes she pops in my meetings, sometimes she doesn't. So if you see a cute little face, that's her. I guess TTC is just, I've been working here for almost a year now, and they are the ones that found me and started to talk to me about the process. And what really led to me in TTC is the fact that I really love the fact that their mission statement is basically, we take care of our people, so then they take care of our mission partners and our customers. And I think that servant leadership really appeals to my values. And I think it shows with how everybody is treated at the company, and our customers appreciate that as well.
Okay, awesome. So can you tell us a little bit more about what TTC Inc. does?
Yeah, so we're a small business located and headquartered in Newport News, Virginia. And we have 4 owners. And was started in 2005, but they started out in the federal sector, mostly with federal contracts. And then when Sherry Robinson and Ray Turner joined, who were the CEO and the COO, they started really making a lot more DoD projects. So we do have a lot of big presence in Langley Air Force Base because we do a lot of the U.S. Air Force ACC contracts. We do anywhere from cybersecurity to IT. We have engineering positions. We just won a big contract out in Las Vegas and with our teaming partners, and that's working at the Shadow Operations Center, which is it's pretty cool because it plays a lot of basically like war game scenarios and battle tactics for all the joint domain for command and control. So that's one thing that we got a lot of positions. That's why I mentioned earlier, I wish I had 8 arms because it's a lot of positions right now for us, and it's a really great mission. So we do have a lot of positions as far as like full stack developers. We've got network engineers, sysadmins. We have a lot of modeling and sim too. So those are some pretty neat positions. And then we even have positions that we stack for the weapons school out at Nellis, which is massage therapists and athletic trainers. So we kind of do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's a pretty broad scope there of roles.
Yeah. So yes, and we're growing. We want to grow, but we want to grow small and incrementally so that we can sustain that growth. But we do have a really good I think we have a really good roadmap leading us forward for being able to grow a little bit more and to be able to take on other customers and other, other domains. So
that's great. That's great. So you kind of touched on it, Christy, but what really led you to TTC? Did you know they existed? You said they reached out to you, but
yeah.
how'd that happen?
Their recruiter reached out to me, and I had heard of them before, but I wasn't really familiar with them. But he started talking to me, and I was not looking for a job at all. I was with another company. I really enjoyed working for them. I just wasn't looking for another company, and I wasn't sure if somebody would be able to give me that remote, because that's not something that everybody gets all the time.
Right.
So and that's really important to me and my family, and my work-life balance. So that's something that I definitely is just required. My daughter's autistic, and I like to be able to be home to support her needs when I need to. So that's just something that I didn't think a lot of people would hire a military spouse again, have her work remote, because they always think we're moving. And also, having a special needs child, that's also another dynamic to it.
Right.
But they were all very good from that. And I think what really sold me on working for TTC and wanting to be here long-term, especially, is the fact that not only are they just down to earth, and I like the fact that they're veterans that run the company and are veteran friendly, but they have that drive and initiative to really reach out to the veteran community. And the fact that I have a growth plan, because I'm in recruiting now, but they're also training me on proposals management, and business development. That's a huge thing for me, to be able to have a company that cares about, I don't have to be a recruiter forever, because I do enjoy recruiting, but I'm also interested as recruiting in so many other different areas, like the contracts we do recruit for. How are they written? Who writes them? How do you manage them? So they take a really big interest and foster that growth with me. And I think that's just really great.
That's really neat. That's really neat aspect. And like Angie said, that's special.
Yeah.
So, Christy, I know we've learned a little bit about what brought you to TTC Inc., but I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your military experience and how you got into recruiting in general.
Okay. Well, it's funny because I was actually armament systems, so I was weapons on fighters. And then when I joined the Guard full time. And then after the full-time Guard gig, I was just going back to 1 week in a month after I came back from Baghdad. And I started working as an avionics on like for Sikorsky, Lockheed Martin, places like that. And then I did meet my husband, who was active duty, did not want an active duty husband, was not looking for one. It happened.
You weren't looking for a job either, and you found it.
Yeah, it's funny because we actually met in Kandahar, because I was deployed to Kandahar with my job supporting the Air Force as a DoD contractor. And we met in Afghanistan. He was stationed in Germany. I lived in Denver. I was on the road all the time. And here we are, married 10 years later, having been together 13 years. So, yeah. So, I completely forgot what I was talking about. I'm sorry.
Oh, what led you into recruiting?
So we got married. We had our child. We moved to Germany. And as you guys know, sometimes as most spouses, it's not easy to find a job when you're overseas because you don't have any childcare. You don't have any friends or family that you can, just easily watch your child, especially when you have a young child and a young child with special needs. So I decided to use my GI Bill when I went to school full time. So I got a double major. So I got a double major in human resources management and management studies. And I did that in 2.5 years with my husband here and there, gone, and with my special needs daughter. But I really pushed myself. I would write papers with her sitting on my shoulders sometimes. And I'm not the only male spouse who's done that. A lot of them do that too. It's just, we do what we have to do. So I graduated. I got a job at University of Maryland Global Campus, where I graduated from too. And then we got stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And I was like, well, I have this degree now. I don't really want to work avionics or weapon systems the way I used to. What can I do? And I was like, I think I want to go into recruiting. So I started out at a smaller company there. And I was like, I actually know what I'm doing. Like I was a DoD contractor. I actually know this. And, I think just being a male spouse in general and not being in the workforce for a couple of years, and then entering it, you just have that, like, you don't know your value and you're scared to take that new chance. And I was scared I was going to mess up. I didn't know anything about salary negotiation. I didn't know, what I was really looking for. And that's something I know now, but that's also something I think a lot of male spouses need to know, and veterans. Know your value, because you really do bring a lot to these companies. You have a unique perspective and how you've lived your life that can really lend to a company. And I think that's one thing that I really just understand fully, is the value of male spouses and veterans. So I think that's kind of what led me to recruiting, is I want to bring those people in. I want to tell these people, hey, community, this is what you do. This is what you can do. And also bring that awareness, like you guys do all the time on a daily basis, of, hey, this is a really valuable community. Let's tap into this resource, and let's make this known that this is a really valuable commodity to have in a company.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that. And you basically told the story of why Sandy and I do what we do every day, is because there is so much value within the veteran and military spouse community. And there is a large talent pool that we want to always highlight to organizations as best we can. So, Christy, I know you talked a little bit about some of your positions briefly earlier, but I would love to hear a little bit more about some specific roles maybe you're recruiting for that you think are a really good fit for some of our veteran and mil spouse talent.
Okay, well, yep, I have a lot of positions right now. So one position I think is pretty neat. It's a federal position, so it's not one of our DoD ones, but it's working for the Department of Transportation. It is a remote position, and it's looking for a full stack developer to work for the Federal Railroad Administration. So they're going to be supporting the applications that are being created. And I like the fact that it is remote, because that can appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Some other positions we have are at Nellis Air Force Base. And I think we have an visual engineer one. That's somebody who is able to work a lot of the audio video equipment, has that background, working around that equipment, making sure that, when people are having their meetings, that, the equipment is all set up, it's all run, it's connecting, bringing that, troubleshooting also is a big one too, but it's also supporting the Shadow Operations Center at Nellis. So that's also a nice one. That's on site. And that one does require a secret. So that one I think is a pretty good position for a mil spouse or a veteran or transitioning. And then we have other ones like a data pipeline engineer at Nellis, which is, that one's really working in more of like the software, the data analytics, and being able to analyze all the data and bring it and produce it for everybody to go ahead and see that kind of data of the operations and exercises that they have. So.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. So does TTC Inc., sounds like they really foster some of those remote roles when possible.
Yes.
Do they have any roles that require clearances, or obviously those would need to be on site, but
yeah, they do. We do need clearances for most of it, but this is the thing that we also like to see and like to work out is, like, for instance, we have a technical writer 3 position. If somebody already has that kind of technical know how to write and they don't have a clearance, for the right person who has that talent, we would be willing to have a sponsor an interim clearance to turn into a secret clearance. So a lot of our shotgun positions at Nellis Air Force Base, if you have like a data pipeline, if you have that, if you have that skill set already, and you don't have a clearance, this is a good way to get one. If you've been a tech writer for a long time, and you want to work on, more military geared and joint, things, but you already know how to write because it is a talent. Like you've got your, bachelor's or master's degree in communications or, English. That's a good thing for them to have. And then, a lot of mil spouses have already been in that environment. They're used to being on a military base already. They're used to that environment already. So that would be a good one for them to have as well.
Yeah, awesome.
So as you're learning, a lot of these questions blend. The answers blend. So my next question is a 2-part question, and you've pretty much answered it already. So we can be quick. Why does TTC, what's the impetus behind hiring military veterans and spouses? Why does TTC want to hire military veterans and spouses? Or, what do they see? What's the value behind that? And part two is, which you've already answered, special qualifications, credentials. You talked to the clearance, so you really don't have to touch on that again. But what does the ideal candidate look like to you?
Okay. Well, I guess the first part is we are pretty much, most of us are veterans, not all of us, but most of us are veterans. And we have Army, we've got Marines, we've got some former pilots. We have people who worked all over maintenance. We've all kind of been contract. Most of us have been a DoD contractor at one point too, so we understand that aspect and all the ins and outs of it. But a lot of us, having been in the military, or they have mil spouses, or they were a mil spouse with active duty, so we have that experience. We know what the community is like. We know what the pitfalls can be. We know what the hurdles can be, but we also know, I want another me, when we have another recruiter. I want another, give this chance for another mil spouse.
Exactly.
So that's what's nice, is we already know what we want. We really like to support a lot of transitioning military. We belong to Virginia Values Veterans, which is really nice, really great for the state of Virginia. We're a member of them. And we also belong to FCS. So we like to really be out in the community and just try to find mil spouses and veterans, because that's us. So I think that's the big reason why TTC, really is so veteran driven, and also so mil spouse driven as well.
Great.
And then what was the second part again?
The second part was pretty much answered, but what does the ideal candidate look like? Special credentials, or you've already talked to the clearance, but what does the ideal candidate look like for you?
The ideal candidate is somebody who's familiar with, the DoD world in any aspect, really. We do look for credentialing, though, like a lot of our cybersecurity jobs or information assurance. As you know, the government does require, your IAT level 2, which is like your CompTIA, your security plus to, able to access those systems. So somebody who's had those certs. Like I said, I do look for transitioning military as well, because I like to be able to say, I know you're getting out. I know it's a little bit scary. You might not know what you do, but this is what you've done for a while. You've got that credential. It would be an easy transition into working on, the civilian side, the contractor side. So I do look for transitioning service members as well, because I think that's just an easy match. And yeah, I think TTC is, a lot of us have that. We don't care what it takes. We're going to work hard. We're going to do what we need to do. We're going to do our job really well. We know that we're going to be taken care of because of TTC, and our customers recognize that. We have glowing, ratings and CPARs and stuff, and exceptionals in a lot of areas, because I think that shows how much we take care of each other. So that's kind of what we look for in an ideal candidate too, is just somebody who's like a team player,
Sure. That's great.
And I think that team aspect is something that the veteran and military spouse population really bring. They really understand that things are accomplished better cohesively. So that's a great skill to be looking for. Christy, can you talk a little bit about the application process and what a candidate can expect? And do you have any tips or tricks or some suggestions for candidates that are looking to get into TTC?
Yes. Well, we do have our career site on our page. It's ttcin.com. But we also, all of our jobs are pushed out to Indeed. We have ZipRecruiter for the cleared professionals. We do have clearance jobs, so I post jobs on there. And then I also post jobs on LinkedIn. One of my favorite things is when people do reach out to me on LinkedIn. I like it when people say, hey, I applied for this job. I help veterans out all the time. I'm like, I might not have a position for you right now, but I might have a position for you in the future. So us talking and networking is a good thing, because just because you might not fit it right now, work on your search, work on this. And then if I have another job just like it, 6 months from now, and you already have your credentials, I'd be so happy to bring you in and talk to you again and see if this is the right time and the right job for you. So people reaching out for me has, it's really worked out for some people. But also I will pass people to other companies if I don't have a job for them as a veteran mil spouse. I'm like, I might not have something for you, but this is another resource that I can provide you, because I don't see any reason why I should gatekeep that. Talent is talent. A veteran is veteran. A mil spouse is a mil spouse. Let's spread it out to other people too.
Pay it forward. Yep.
Yeah. So that's just kind of something that I have done. I've met some really great people and talked to a lot of great people pretty much on a weekly basis of, I don't have anything for you, but these are resources you can have. Like, you want to get your PMP, this is something free that's offered through this program, through this resource, So I try to also just connect people with those resources as well, because some people have done that for me, and I want to be able to share that, but I also want to take it one step further, knowing the recruiting process of saying, hey, if you come talk to me or message me on LinkedIn or email me or apply, I will reach out and talk to you, and I will just, kind of give you the truth. We're transparent. You might not be a good fit for this one, but hey, this is something that you should go for. Or maybe on your resume, you might want to work a little bit on this. So I think the fact that people have reached out to me on LinkedIn and I've been able to provide that has been really helpful.
That's something that I think is really special in the military community at large, is the notion of supporting the whole community. And you're not just looking out for your own self, but for the good of everyone and passing it along. And that's what we're, Sandy and I are hoping to do with our Recruiter Connect community, is really have that connection where there's resources and information and that flow between recruiters on the East Coast and West Coast, so that we can really help push forward the veteran hiring piece that's so important and can be challenging for some people.
Yeah, but I think it's I really love it. Like, I tell everybody all the time about it. I'm like, you guys have to join this. You don't understand. This is your veteran, your recruiter. This is amazing. Like, those spouses, come on, join. This is amazing.
Well, thank you for that. Something that's really special and we're enjoying doing.
So I have one last question from me, and that is, what special events is TTC involved in, or do you support locally or nationally for the veteran and military spouse community?
Well, we do, like I mentioned before, we do belong to Virginia Values Veterans. We also, I do know that they do sponsor things from time to time. They do belong to AFCEA. I myself belong to a couple local chapters around here too. There's things that I think on the pipeline that we really want to do, like, Habitat for Humanity. We want to be able to get involved with that, maybe get a veteran team and mil spouse going for that one. And, as we grow, we're really kind of working on the ideas of having a more established program within ourselves for hiring and targeting veterans and mil spouses. So maybe having more events of, hey, come on in. Well, even I think as simple as, this is how resumes I look at, this is what I look for, or I can practice interviewing you with you, like that kind of stuff. Because I do know that TAPS is a good program for people getting out, but I also think that the one thing that I hear from veterans and mil spouses is that they don't really get a lot of that interview practice. They don't know what to do. It's nerve-wracking as it is.
It is.
I get nervous with interviews, and I get time. So, when you're on the hot seat, it's hard, but I don't think that they work on that a lot. And I think that's one thing that I would like to see in TTC we're talking about, is actually expanding that, just to try to sponsor some of these, just like a workshop even of, hey, this is how you do it. This is, we're happy to provide these tools for you, and you have to do the rest. But, this is something that I think you could use some help with, and this is something that we'd be happy to do.
I think you're so right. Yeah. That ability to sell yourself in an interview is crucial to closing a role. And that is something that VetJobs and military spouse jobs we can assist with as well, is having those interview practice and doing some mock interviews with our candidates. So I'm happy to see that there's so much support out there for that, because it is vital to closing in on a role. So Christy, thank you so much for joining us today. This was awesome. Is there anything additional or any last minute words of wisdom that you would like to share before we close it out?
If you know anybody, you're a mil spouse veteran or transitioning, come check us out at ttcin.com. and see if we have anything for you, or add me on LinkedIn, because I'd
Yes.
love to connect with the community and grow it. And, you know, like I said, as long as all of us start sharing our resources, I just think we can really help a lot of people out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
So much.
Thanks
Thanks, Angie.
for
I
spending a few
appreciate
minutes
it.
with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.